And now, the evil engagement. When an evil djinn named Nadakhan appears, freed from the teapot that had imprisoned him for ages, he immediately gets up to no good. The djinn has the ability to grant wishes, but they always turn against the wisher. The ninja make a big mistake when they wish for the power to defeat him. Now Naya is on the verge of becoming Nadakhan's bride. Only a handful of ninja are left to fight the djinn, and most important to this particular story, Clancee, the peg-legged serpentine pirate, has to figure out how to bake a wedding cake. There is going to be a wedding, Nadakhan announced to his assembled crew. Make the necessary preparations. The crew of the flying pirate ship Misfortune's Keep glanced at each other as their djinn captain stalked away. Everyone knew they had to obey orders and help make the wedding between Nadakhan and Naya a success. They also knew what would happen to them if the ceremony was a failure. Nadakhan wasn't known as the forgiving type, so no one wanted to be the first to volunteer to be wedding planner. Well, almost no one. Wow, romantic, Clancee cried, hopping around on his wooden leg. I haven't been to a wedding since... Actually, I've never been to a wedding, but I bet they're fun. Flintlock, the djinn's trusted first mate, and Dogshank, a hulking brute, looked at each other with big smiles creeping onto their faces. It looked like they had found their wedding planner. Clancee was excited about being given the job of organizing the big event. Sure, there were challenges, like the bride hating the groom, but all weddings came with minor obstacles, or so he had heard. The first thing he had to do, he decided, was make a list. Music, food, Naya's dress, he said, jotting them down on his list. Oh, and a cake. Can't forget that. The dress was easy. Nadakhan insisted on Naya wearing his mother's wedding gown. It had 4 sleeves, but that could be fixed. Since the groom was much too busy to talk to him, Clancee decided to discuss arrangements with the bride. What kind of flowers would you like? He asked Naya. Stinkweed, she replied. Is there anyone I should leave off the guest list? Yes, the groom. What do you want as a wedding gift? To skip this wedding, Naya snarled. It appeared that the bride was not going to be much help either, so Clancee went to check on how the preparations were going. Bucko, whose real name was Colin, but that's not a very pirate name, Flintlock, and some of the other pirates were busy transforming the interior of the djinn temple into a wedding chamber. Clancee marked it off his to-do list and left them to their work. He headed for the ship's kitchen galley. It was time to make the wedding cake. Clancee had been hoping Doubloon would be free to help him. It was true that Doubloon didn't know how to cook, but he had once robbed a baker, so that gave him more experience in the kitchen than any of the other pirates. But Doubloon was busy stealing the music for the ceremony. Baking the cake was going to be up to Clancee. No problem. I've got this, the little green pirate said confidently. He raided the shops for all the ingredients he thought should go in a cake. Flour, eggs, milk, sugar, peppers, chicken, barbecue sauce, a loaf of bread, and just a hint of lime. He mixed them all up in a pot and hung the pot over a fire. Now I just need to let this cook for 6 hours, and I'm done, Clancee said happily. It was almost time for the wedding rehearsal, so he left the galley to check on how the other preparations were coming along. Doubloon had returned with the music. It took Clancee a long time to find something he liked. Most of the songs were about raiding small towns or sacking merchant ships. Sadly, there just weren't that many pirate love songs. Clancee finally picked a sea shanty that sounded vaguely ceremonial and didn't have lyrics about stealing and firing cannons. Clancee was about to practice conducting the wedding ceremony when he was distracted by a wonderful smell. The cake! He rushed below decks to see how his creation was doing. As he rounded the corner to the galley, he collided with something soft and spongy, the bounced him up against a wall. The pirate's eyes went wide. The hallway was filled with cake from floor to ceiling. The stuff was growing by the minute, moving farther and farther down the passage. Something about his recipe had gone very wrong, he decided. Probably too much chicken, Clancee said. There was only one thing to do. He drew his sword and attacked. Hacking and slashing, Clancee carved a path through the cake, trying to reach the galley. It was a hard-fought battle. Every time he thought he was on the verge of victory, the growing cake would close in around him again. At one point, he thought maybe he could eat his way through it, but he had been right the first time. There was way too much chicken. No baked good is going to stop me, Clancee yelled, charging forward. Behind him, the cake was now starting to climb the stairs to the main deck. Unfortunately, it hadn't turned out to be a very light and fluffy, so the weight was starting to drag Misfortune's keep down. At last, Clancee spotted the bubbling pot. He pushed his way through the sweet treat and yanked the pot off the cooking fire. Now he just had to find a way to explain all of this to the others. "What in the Silver Sea is going on here?" bellowed Flintlock. He was standing in the door of the galley, covered in cake crumbs and goo. Clancee thought fast. A new ninja, he stuttered. The ninja of cake. Very dangerous. But no worries. I defeated him. Flintlock hauled poor Clancee in front of Nadakhan. As it turned out, the ninja of cake story did not go over well with the evil djinn. There'd better not be any more problems, Nadakhan demanded, his eyes pinning Clancee to the wall, or it's going to be your head. Clancee kept that in mind later, when he began to conduct the ceremony. It wasn't exactly a dream wedding. The bride kept looking over her shoulder, hoping for rescue, and the groom was growing more and more enraged. But the music was nice, and the pieces of cake that Clancee had managed to save weren't too awful. Overall, as he reached the end of the service, Clancee was feeling pretty good about the job he had done. And under the watchful eye of this seventh son, may this crown codify this renewal today and for years to come, he said quickly, trying to make the marriage official before the djinn lost patience. Suddenly, the sound of cannon fire came from outside the main doors. A minute later, the doors burst open to reveal the ninja team, reunited and ready for battle. And by the power vested in me, Clancee said, even faster, I now pronounce you all powerful. Clancee dove onto the nearest piece of furniture as the ninja confronted Nadakhan. The heroes were already realizing they were too late. Nadakhan and Naya were married. Yuck! Nadakhan quickly used his terrible magic to put his new bride to sleep as he turned to face the ninja. Oh boy, thought Clancee, those ninja don't stand a chance. But if Nadakhan wins, what's going to happen to me? As Nadakhan created duplicates of himself to battle the heroes, Clancee went over in his mind all the little problems there had been at the wedding. Just the fact that the entire lower deck smelled of barbecue chicken and cake would probably be enough to get him banished forever. He had never seen the all-powerful djinn so angry, and it was a pretty scary sight. He had to do something, but what? Get out of the temple and try to hide? Do something really heroic so Nadakhan wouldn't destroy him for at least another day or so? Or could he, would he, did he dare help the ninja? Oh no, I couldn't do that, Clancee said to himself. I'm a pirate. I plunder and loot, and I could never. A couple dozen duplicates of Nadakhans were now battling ninja all over the room. Holes were being blown in walls. Pirates were being tossed through the air, and the djinn's dreadful laughter was ringing everywhere. Clancee had to decide, but he couldn't. He sat down on the floor, covered in wedding cake, looked around at the wreckage of the wedding, and the crazed djinn on a rampage. and wiped a tear from his eye. Now I get why people could cry at weddings. Clancee sobbed. The end.